You know, it's not like there's nothing to talk about today. In fact, I've got a backload of stories here and of takes to get to, but I'm thinking all day long. I mean, I'm thinking as soon as I get off work yesterday, all right, what's the monologue going to be like? What's it going to be on? Hey, this is Marky Bilson, your voice of choice for a new generation of Tri-Cities sports fans. The name of the Tri-Cities on 1420 WEMB Sports Radio. Well, let me put it to you this way here. I'm searching, I'm thinking, I'm trying to go and figure out, hey, what should the monologue be on? And I'm really not, you want it to be cutting edge. Ideally, you want it to be a radio programmer named Jay Bohannon, who once convinced it's not necessarily about local programming as it is about good programming. You know, you can be local, yeah, let's talk about the middle school. Greenville Middle, how many people really care? Even around here. But a take that is unique and could, in fact, affect us here in East Tennessee, well, that's the way to go. So, of course, I want to talk Washington, not Washington County, not Washington, D.C. I'm talking Pacific time zone, right there, Pacific Ocean, yes. Seattle, Mariners, Seahawks, Huskies, Seattle, yes, okay. Starbucks, grunge, yeah, I hate grunge music. Grunge music killed rock and roll. Oh, yeah. In fact, I got a story here if I get about how heavy metal is actually coming back. But anyway, we might get into that if we go into guy talk. But Seattle is of the West Coast, upper West Coast, where it might rain, where Mark Twain would say the coldest summer I ever spent, or the coldest summer listen to me, botched the line. The coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco. Think Candlestick Park, Stu Miller getting blown off the mound. You get the idea what we're trying to say here. Okay, now, even if I botch it up initially. So the northern, let's say, West Coast cities, San Francisco, Portland, homelessness. You know what? I think it's $18 just to go to the top of the Space Needle. Could you have local American cultures that could be possibly as different as East Tennessee and, say, San Francisco, and still be part of America? Think about this. Now, I'm not saying topography. Topography of East Tennessee and San Francisco, very similar. Culture, yes, polar opposites. Let's face it. I mean, let's just put it this way. At least when East Tennesseans shoot up, they have the decency to do it in the privacy of their own shack. In San Francisco, they do it in the middle of the street. I mean, I can't, say and claim, some sort of moral superiority. We've got an opioid epidemic around here. We've got meth labs. I mean, let's face it, okay? I mean, so before we go all high and mighty over other people, we got this problem. When East Tennesseans shoot up, they have the decency to do it in the privacy of their own shack. San Francisco, yes, it's in the middle of the street. That probably modesty, it does have to do with the cost of living, as it is much more affordable to get a shack in East Tennessee than it is housing in San Francisco. Okay. So, but there was a law that this week, and I'd like to thank my friend John Krasinski, who's been a guest on the show talking soccer in the past. I'd like to think that for it, Seattle has just passed the greatest and most important law of all time. They have passed a law that requires bars to activate closed captioning on their television sets during business hours. Yes. The law does not just apply to watering holes. No. If you have a set on in your restaurant, you've seen that, in the gym, by the exercise bikes. We've all seen that. You go to the ballpark. You go see the Mariners. And you're waiting in line for a hot dog at the concession stand. There's usually a TV up there. And guess what? They got to have the closed captioning on. the law is meant to benefit people who are hard of hearing, or maybe have other disabilities. Maybe, I don't know, you move from Spain and you speak Spanish. Yeah, it's your native tongue. You're still learning English. You've just moved to America or something. Well, the idea with the law, this is what the politicians say, is that will help the transplanted American, the alien, let's say, who, maybe his English isn't quite that good. This will help him out. I can't tell you how many people I know who English is their second language. How did you learn English? I learned it by watching TV. How many times have we heard that? We've all heard that. So, it helps get them acclimated to an American culture. Well, bless them all. Even if the words on the bottom of the screen are past tense when they crawl. For there is no devotion to the game when all we get is motion. So cheer up, now we can figure out what's going on. World War II songs here that we're going. I think that actually was used 100 years ago in World War I, too, overseas. But anyway. Look, bars and restaurants pay big bucks to have extensive cable packages so that people can watch the game from wherever they are while enjoying a night out. Right? And when you go out there, invariably, the sound is turned down. I once got into a huge, violent argument. I mean, it was ugly with a restaurant manager because I was one of, the only person in a section of a vast restaurant here in Johnson City. I go to the set. I want to watch the Pirates Cubs. I turn on the sound just enough for me to hear it. And he comes out, no, we can't have that. I didn't get, I didn't stay. Come on. I don't understand that at all. I do not understand the mindset. I do not understand that with the sound turned down or music blaring and no closed captioning, how you can follow a game at a sports bar. You can't. And though insisting bar owners have closed captioning will not provide the atmosphere at, say, singles bars that most people would like, which would be to actually talk to each other instead of having dance music blaring to the volume where conversation and hookups are impossible, it'll at least provide something for the men to do so that the women, for a change, can come to them, or us, more specifically me, assuming the singles bar has the foresight to put on the game in the first place. Now, you can say what you will about Seattle, about Portland, about San Francisco, where, it is now law, and it's the greatest law ever passed. If you have a set on at a bar, at a restaurant, gym, wherever, public gathering place, closed captioning's got to be on. Now you can actually watch and figure out what's going on. Say what you will about Seattle, Portland, and San Francisco. I know around here, the term progressive of a political nature is not a positive one. This is a progressive law in every sense of the word. I don't care what the motivation is. All I know is it just got a lot easier for sports fans in Seattle, in Portland, and in San Francisco to watch the game. Whatever is keeping the rest of the world's governments to follow in their footsteps. That should be universal everywhere. I'm not sorry. No. Closed captioning so that you can actually watch the game. Okay. Say, well, we got to have music on in the background, or we don't want a bunch of sportscasters talking over each other. Fine. Put the closed captioning up. I'll be able to follow. Because that's really, I don't know about you, but if I'm going to a sports bar, I want to watch the game. I don't want to be able to follow it. And if you don't have the ability with just the screen, what's the point? So congratulations, Seattle, as well as before them, Portland and San Francisco, for now it is law to have closed captioning up at a sports bar on the sets. Why that isn't a federal law, I don't know. Anyway, I'm Marky Bilson. I'm the only guy that could rant like this in this market. I want to tell you the Atlanta Braves are actually playing right now. They've got a noon start time to complete their series against the San Diego Padres, Manny Machado and company. It was a tough day for Major League Baseball. It's been a tough season. And to tell you the truth myself, at one time, an incredibly huge baseball fan. Incredibly huge. And I have not watched a game any 1 through 9 all year. I've watched games, I haven't watched them 1 through 9. Part of that might be, all right, let's take a look at the hockey playoffs. Let's look at other things going on, the football draft, etc., NASCAR. But a lot of it is just that I think that the game has been attacked. I think the game is changing into a bastardization of what it once was. I think the game is getting more political in a way that I'm not comfortable with. And that's the thing about sports and politics. People say they shouldn't mix. They've always mixed. Sports and politics mix in the NBA. There's a reason why the NBA gets, for their All-Star game, a lower rating this year than what the NHL got for their Stanley Cup 5th game last year. All you over here, if you listen to the Nationals, say, oh, hockey doesn't get good. There's a story out today in Sports Illustrated that I'm going to get to. It's about why the AAF failed. It's real easy there, folks. The reason why the AAF failed, they had one owner. They didn't have individual ownership of the franchises. I told you that when it started. I asked Steve Spurrier about it when he was on the show. I've told you from experience, it has never worked when the league owns all the franchises. We saw it happen here for a lot of reasons, regardless. And I'll get to them as we go on and such. Regardless, as I was saying with that, maybe even the AAF, there's a story right there to talk about. Certainly even Tennessee, the Volunteers, and even ETSU with all their transfers. They've been making a lot of noise here lately. It seems that somehow, though, baseball, it's just, is it counting anymore? Attendance is way down this year. Last year, it was the first time in years that they didn't draw 70 million through the turnstiles. And actually, they didn't draw that through the turnstiles because that was tickets sold. Now it's down even more. It should scare you, and I will tell you why baseball is losing attendance as we go on. Manny Machado, though, is batting down in Atlanta right now. There are 2 outs and nobody on for the Padres as he faces Mike Foltynewicz. And also, in the top of the first, the Reds are at New York. Jake DeGrom, I believe, is on the bump there. He's got a real high ERA. He's got an if I am, did I get the pitching matchup? DeGrom's ERA is 4.85. I don't think that's the reason why. Excuse me, he pitched yesterday. I'm sorry. It's Syndergaard out there. He's got a high ERA, 6.23. Boy, does ERA even count anymore? Or is it now all FIP and WHIP and all that? Anyway.
The world-renowned destination.